welcome to the School of Love, the place where miracles are normal. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, the School of Love. My name is Maria and I am helping people discover their inner potential for love towards oneself and towards the others. From the very beginning, I must emphasize the fact that this channel is not part of my educational and research activities at Hiroshima University. It is nonetheless part of my privilege, joy, and sense of duty to propagate and implement knowledge, information, as well as motivation and inspiration outside the limited framework of academic endeavors. With that being said, let's dive right into today's topic, which is how to develop integrity. And related to this, I'll deliver 10 guidelines on the protocol to which will lead you to develop a greater sense of integrity, moral, emotional, ethical integrity, which then will lead to further developments such as compassion. In another video, I explained that compassion is a combination of empathy and integrity. Empathy is fundamental in compassion because it enables us to feel what other people are feeling, so to put us proverbially in their shoes, so that we can see where they're coming from, but also integrity is necessary so that we do not get lost into their own emotional turmoils. But today I'm going to talk about integrity. I will start with the definition of integrity, and then I will outline 10 guidelines on how to achieve integrity beneath the sense of entitlement or confusion. So integrity is a characteristics of people who are authentic and genuine and who behave more or less the same. Of course, there are some variations depending the social context, usually in which we find ourselves. But those people who keep a sort of balance and equanimity and who behave more or less similarly in different situations and with different people, we say about those people that they have integrity. Authenticity, so being who you really are, knowing who you are, and correspondingly behaving in accordance to your values, to your systems, to your beliefs, to your credos. This is also part of integrity. Another part of integrity is vulnerability. So the ability to be who you are and to show to the others who you are, while at the same time keeping a sense of balance between exposing yourself too much and not opening yourself at all to others. So authenticity, knowing who you are and being your true self, and becoming your true self, and vulnerability are two fundamental parts of what we call integrity. So integrity comes from the Latin word integer, which refers to this concept of being whole. And being whole is not necessarily equal to being unique, although all of us, we are unique in our own ways. But being whole means that you do not need to play a role, while at the same time keeping a sense of moderation in all your endeavors. Now, let's move on to the 10 guidelines. So, as I said, there are guidelines. They do not have to be performed in this particular order, but this is more or less the protocol to strengthen your sense of self, to delve more deeply into your sense of self and understanding it, while at the same time gaining insight into who you are and gaining courage to be who you are. And from here, there is almost naturally a sense of commitment to who you are and to developing into your best self, into your best potential self, actually ensures. This is very important, and I have, while building up these 10 guidelines in this order, I realized that while the order is not necessarily crucial, it actually follows the logic of becoming aware. This is the first step. Becoming aware of the world in which you find yourself, towards being an active citizen, an active member of the society, while encouraging the others to become active and authentic and humans of integrity themselves. So the first step, as I have suggested already, is to develop an understanding for the importance of awareness. So why is awareness important? Because as long as we do not know something, we cannot learn about it. As long as we are shut down in relation to some event or to some fact, as long as we actually deny its existence, we cannot do anything about it. And we need awareness that the world exists. We need awareness that the world is around us and that we are part of the world and that we exist in the world. And from this awareness of a greater whole than ourselves, than each of us, him or herself, then you can develop a sense of self-awareness. And self-awareness is as important as general awareness or outside-oriented awareness. Why? Because in order to develop yourself in the world, in order to become who you can become, you need to develop this sense of self-awareness of your own potentialities, of all these potential parallel realities which might exist if you found the courage and the insight to allow them to unfold. I know it sounds a little bit like New Age, voodoo, but bear with me. Because awareness, and more particularly self-awareness, I would say 95% of any journey of self-discovery, of any journey of self-healing, and of healing in general, of any journey of becoming better, and of moving forward in life. And once you have discovered this sense of self-awareness, your sensitivities, your proclivities, your tendencies, you will almost automatically develop or learn to sense the spirit of time. In German, they call this Zeitgeist, and refers like a spirit of time, like what is particular for our historical era, what is particular for your or my or someone else's geographical embedding, what makes us us within this particular historical geographical context. And sensing, learning to sense, learning to open up your senses, your perception to the spirit of time, you will understand that the world moves according to specific values too. And it's not a set of values, and they're not like immovable values, but they're more or less the same values. And what's happening is, in step number 5 is that these values exist within specific hierarchies, and the hierarchies change. So in the Christian or Judeo-Christian world, we have these 10 commandments, which actually can be summed up to one fundamental commandment, which is do not do unto others what you don't like being done unto yourself. And this is like what they call the golden rule. Treat the others in the same way as you would like to be treated. They also say, there is a platinum rule which says treat the others as they wish to be treated. And I think this is a little bit tricky. And the explanation why this is tricky came actually from my son, who said, like, if you treat the others the way you would like to be treated, then they will treat you the way you like to be treated. Because this is they learn how to treat you by the way you behave yourself in the world, by the way you treat the others. But if you try to treat them the way they want to be treated, they will treat you the way you treat them, so they will treat you the way they want to be treated. And while this might come in handy at a later stage of a human interaction, in the first phases of any human interaction, we should actually treat the others in the manner in which we would like to be treated. And then throughout further interaction, we can then expand the spectrum of how we treat the others. So what's important in this step number 5, it's important to identify the values and how they are embedded in the specific hierarchy of your particular historical and geographical space. Why this is important? Because this hangs together with the spirit of time. Its tendencies, it's the shifts beneath the surface of what we see as historical reality, and which is usually embedded in a larger geographical contextualization. And once you understand, or once you get a sense of how the hierarchies of value are constructed and the place-specific values occupy within those hierarchies, I invite you to watch the news. And this is probably the only time, or one of the few times when I tell you, when I challenge you to watch the news. So watch the news but take a distant, a detached attitude. Do not allow yourself to be dragged by their dramatism, by their fake sense of self-importance. For better or for worse, and because we live in a global village, news are not important. Like the news agency are filtering the news for us, and depending on their political orientation, depending on what is important at the very moment for them, they actually manipulate our sense of urgency and emergency. So do not take them seriously, just watch them. And in the next step, identify the reasons for news to be presented by a specific news agency or news service. What do you think is the goal of presenting those news? This is very important. So think about the news as if it were a piece of material you have to analyze. So it's not important the contents exactly of the news, but what do you think is the intent beneath sharing that specific particular piece of news? And the next step, you reflect about why do you think that sharing the news, or how do you think that sharing that particular piece of news contributes to making the world better or worse? And why do you tend towards one answer? So in this process, what you're doing actually, you're reshuffling, you're discovering and then reshuffling your own sense of integrity. Why do you think specific values are more important than others while observing a piece of news? And does it come into contradiction, into contrast with what you estimate as being the intent of the news agency or news service presenting that specific piece of news? So what you need to do, the goal of such a protocol, self-awareness and introspective protocol, is to understand which are your specific values. What is important for you, and more directly, why is it important for you? And then when you analyze, is this piece of news impacting the world in a positive way or in a negative way, so making the world a better place or making the world a worse place, you will see that depending on the values you have identified within yourself, most news actually have a detrimental impact on the perception of the viewers. Nonetheless, blood cells, so to say, and the more dramatic, the more tragic, the more emotionally draining news are, the more they tend to be presented. And while analyzing yourself, looking into yourself and asking yourself these questions. It's important to learn to find arguments for your stance while also trying to develop arguments against your stance. And this again, the goal of such a procedure is to identify your own values and to develop a sense of urgency, but also stability and flexibility in relation to your values. Because your values, and more important, not only the values themselves, but the way they position themselves hierarchically within yourself, within your worldview, is what delivers integrity to yourself. And while observing all these procedures within yourself, it's important to listen to others. So now we move again from introspection to outwards oriented perspective. And I must say from my own experience, as well as from the experience of other people, that learning to listen more than you talk and encouraging the others to talk to you, in front of you, for you, is an absolute superpower. And so integrity is a sense of flexible stability within yourself, which emerges from identifying your own values, not as values, as absolute values, but as values integrated within specific hierarchy of values, which is probably very typical for you, and then how they coordinate and impact your actions, your thoughts, your emotions. And an important part, and the final part of this procedure, is to learn to listen more than you talk, so that you can move from introspection towards a perspective which embraces the world around you. So I hope this helps. This gives you insights and strength into finding a sense of integrity, harmony, and strength within yourself. And thank you for joining me today. I'm looking forward to welcoming you back here very soon again. Love and peace to you all.